Okay, we're going to look at shell scripting now. So we mentioned earlier that in nearly all coding languages that I'm familiar with, the double equals is to evaluate, and the single equals is to assign. So we can use that in the bash environment here. So we can have value 1, and if we assign it, use the single equals, a value, it will retain that value. So we can say echo value 1 to see what value it is. So this is an assignment. If we change this to be 333 and do echo again, we can see that it's changed now, and it's be reassigned that value. We can equally have another value 2, which we're going to call just 2 like that, and echo value 2 to see what's there. And we use the same command when we said before to echo your path to see what executables are immediately executable in your path if you wish to add more to them. We can also use strings to do that. So we can have name1 is equal to, say my name is Tim, for example, and then do echo name1 like that. And if I reassign Tim to be Tim2, it will be changed to Tim2 and will just be Tim2 now. So, and if we want to add in something that's more advanced, we could have a variable v1, and again, using the same setup, have those a single quote, XPR to denote that it's an expression, have 3 plus 4. And you can see it changing to red because the computer has recognized that this is a bash script that we're writing. So we're assigning v1 that value. So if we echo v1, we can see that it now gives that output. If we add in spaces, it will interpret that as a numerical calculation. So we can use, if we have no spaces, it will assume that it's a string of some form, whereas if we add in spaces, it will assume that it's an operation that's occurring. So we can change our pluses to, say, a minus and see what it gives us, and we can see that that is straightforward. More complex is that if we're doing a multiplication, we have to put in a / beforehand to note that the asterisk is a special symbol. And then we check that that works. You can see it now has given us a 12 at the end. In the same way, we can multiply values by each other. So you're going to v1 is something we declared already. So 2 by v1 is going to be what value? 24. So we changed v2 to be to point towards a value in v1. So in that way, we can build up more complex operations. Just note in my notes, if you're cutting and pasting from them, to use the single quotes, to use the right quote symbol, that sometimes is changed if you're cutting and pasting. Similarly, if we're dividing, we can have a backslash and see what is in v2 now. So you can see it's below 0. Or you can change that around to have v1 divided by 2. What does that give us? It gives us 6. And so we can gradually build more complex commands into a script. One of the key functions that we have is called read. So if we type in read, we'll be able to assign that value to standard input, but we need to put it inside a script, and that's why we have scripts already written there, one of which is test.sh. So we had that first line from before. We can copy it over and see what happens when we run that particular one. So you can see that we have assigned a value to our particular value, which is 3. And if we do echo total and value, it will echo this. So it says total is 3. And then we can do the same with the second 2 lines. We can copy them over and run them, and we'll see the value 3 is assigned the value of 1. And these are now assigned in our system. So for example, we could change that to be like the other line if we wanted to by just typing it in like that. We could even change the commands inside that file, going to Emacs. And then, for example, having 11 multiplied by 2 for value 4, and value 33 could be 22 divided by 2. And we just need to change the commands here. We save that, exit, and what we're going to do is now run it. So we saw earlier that in the previous session we had a chmod this, so you use that using 77 to change it to a fully executable file by anyone for test.sh. So if we do that and then do full stop, indicating a dot, indicating that we're working in our present directory, or / indicates that we wish to execute a file in our current directory, and just type in test.sh there. It will execute all the commands inside that file. So we can see there that if we look at test.sh, we had value for expression is 11/2. I had the echo command was to print out value 44, so it didn't do that. It had to match exactly. A value 33 was printed out, which is a value of 11. So if we go back and edit our file again, we can change value 44 back to value 4, and this time it should print that out. So unless everything is exactly correct, we may find that some things don't work as we thought. So we rerun that, and now we see the total 22 is printed out, and that corresponds to what we wanted inside our file. We have a similar file in test2.sh. You can see a short shell script where it says, what's your name? And it says it reads the user input and assigns that as the variable name. And then it echoes that. And there's another advantage, a useful command to echo the name of the script. And then the $sign indicates the current process ID. So if we run that just for example, it will prompt me for my name. So I'm going to say my name is Tim. It says, hello, Tim. It prints out the name of the script, which is test2.sh. So sh stands for shell script, and this is the current process ID. So each task the computer has a process ID, so it can manage the different processes when it's running. So if we rerun that again, you'll see, I'm just going to call myself T, is that it has a different process ID. If we keep rerunning that, each time it'll have a different process ID, even though it's kind of doing the same thing each time. So those are the core of writing a bash script, and you might try to do one yourself. If you want to edit test2.sh, we can do that, and we can change the variable name to be a different variable. It's entirely up to you how you want to define it. The names are just random. So you could have read name, hello name 1, and then we could have echo, and then we could have another read input 2, and then we could have echo, this is $input 2 for the second part. So if we run that again, my name is Tim, and then it's waiting for input at that second read function. We didn't write any print commands in here, so it's not printing anything, but you can literally put in anything here and it will continue. So it says there, this is 123, 123, which is the input I gave it. So this is kind of a basic guide over how these work.